Welcome to the Psychology and Physical Training channel. Imagine this. You're at a party, chatting with a group. The room is filled with laughter, music, and the clinking of glasses. You feel a sense of belonging, surrounded by familiar faces. You share a funny story, one that you think will get everyone laughing. You build up to the punchline, feeling the anticipation in the air. But as you finish, there's silence. An awkward, deafening silence. No one laughs. No one even acknowledges what you said. Everyone continues their conversations as if you were never speaking. It's as if you suddenly became invisible. It stings, doesn't it? That feeling of being ignored is a universal experience, and it hurts deeply. It's a moment that can make you feel small and insignificant. We've all felt that pang of rejection. That feeling of invisibility. It's a powerful emotion that can linger long after the moment has passed. It's a powerful experience that can leave us questioning our worth. We start to wonder if there's something wrong with us, if we're not interesting or likable enough. But why does being ignored affect us so deeply? Why does it leave such a lasting impact on our psyche? It all comes down to our brains. Our brains are incredibly complex organs, wired for survival and connection. Our brains are wired for connection. We are social creatures by nature, and social interaction is as vital to us as food and water. We thrive on social bonds and relationships. When we connect with others, our brains release chemicals that make us feel good, like dopamine and oxytocin. When we experience rejection, our brains interpret it as a threat to our survival. This triggers a stress response, releasing cortisol and other stress hormones. This is a primal response, deeply ingrained in our biology. It's a mechanism that has evolved over millions of years to keep us safe and connected to our social groups. Understanding this can help us navigate those painful moments of rejection. It reminds us that our need for connection is a fundamental part of being human. So next time you feel that sting of being ignored, remember that it's not a reflection of your worth. It's a natural response, and you're not alone in feeling it. Embrace your need for connection, and seek out those who value and appreciate you. Because in the end, we all deserve to be seen and heard. Your brain on ignore. When someone ignores us, our brains react as if we're experiencing physical pain. This isn't just a metaphor, it's a scientifically proven phenomenon. The same areas of the brain that light up when we're physically hurt are activated when we're socially rejected. This overlap in brain activity shows just how deeply social interactions are wired into our biology. This explains why being ignored can feel like a punch to the gut. The emotional pain can be so intense that it manifests physically, making us feel sick or even causing real physical discomfort. It's not all in our heads. It's a real physiological response. Our bodies and minds are interconnected, and social rejection can trigger a stress response that affects our overall well-being. But the pain doesn't stop there. The emotional toll of being ignored can linger, affecting our mental health and self-esteem. Being ignored also triggers a cascade of negative emotions. We might feel sadness, anger, confusion, or shame. These feelings can be overwhelming and difficult to process. These emotions are natural responses to rejection, but they can be difficult to deal with. It's important to acknowledge these feelings and find healthy ways to cope with them. It's important to remember that you're not alone in feeling this way. Many people go through similar experiences, and seeking support can make a big difference. Millions of people experience the pain of being ignored every day. By understanding the science behind this pain, we can better navigate our emotions and support each other through difficult times. Power plays and silent struggles. Understanding why someone might be ignoring you can be helpful, even if it doesn't excuse the behavior. Sometimes people ignore others as a way of exerting control or power. This can be a conscious or unconscious act, but it's often a sign of insecurity on the part of the person doing the ignoring. Other times, people ignore others because they're struggling with their own issues. They might be dealing with stress, anxiety, or depression. They might be overwhelmed and unable to cope with social interaction. While this doesn't make the behavior acceptable, it does offer a different perspective. Are you being tested? The silent treatment in relationships. In the context of close relationships, being ignored can be particularly painful. This is especially true when it takes the form of the silent treatment. This manipulative tactic involves intentionally withholding communication as a way of punishing or controlling a partner. The silent treatment is a form of emotional abuse, and it can have serious consequences for a relationship. It's important to recognize the signs of this behavior and to address it directly. If you're in a relationship where you're constantly being given the silent treatment, it's time to reevaluate the health of that relationship. The power of boundaries. Regardless of the reason for being ignored, it's crucial to set boundaries. You deserve to be treated with respect, and that includes being heard. Setting boundaries means communicating your needs and limits clearly. If someone is consistently ignoring you, don't be afraid to address the issue directly. Let them know how their behavior is affecting you. You can say something like, "I feel disrespected when you ignore me. Can we please talk about this?" Accepting disinterest. When moving on is the answer. Sometimes, being ignored is a sign of disinterest. As painful as it is to accept, not everyone is going to be interested in us, and that's okay. It's important to remember that your worth doesn't depend on the validation of others. If you've made an effort to connect with someone and they consistently ignore you, it might be time to move on. Don't waste your time and energy on someone who isn't interested in reciprocating. Focus your attention on building relationships with people who value you and appreciate your company. The ghostly treatment. Unveiling the psychology of ghosting. Ghosting, the act of abruptly cutting off all contact with someone without explanation, is a particularly hurtful form of being ignored. It can happen in any type of relationship, whether it's romantic, platonic, or even professional. The sudden silence can be jarring and leave the person on the receiving end feeling bewildered and hurt. It's become increasingly common in the digital age, where it's easy to disappear from someone's life with the click of a button. Social media and instant messaging have made it simpler than ever to cut ties without facing immediate consequences. This digital ease of communication paradoxically makes it easier to sever connections without a second thought. Ghosting is often a cowardly way of avoiding confrontation or difficult conversations. People who ghost may feel overwhelmed by the prospect of explaining their feelings or actions. They might think that disappearing is the easiest way to avoid an uncomfortable situation, but this often leaves the other person in emotional limbo. It can leave the person on the receiving end feeling confused, rejected, and with a lack of closure. The unanswered questions and the sudden end can lead to self-doubt and a lot of emotional turmoil. The person left behind may spend a lot of time wondering what went wrong and blaming themselves for the abrupt end. While it's easy to personalize ghosting, it's important to remember that it says more about the person doing the ghosting than it does about you. Their inability to communicate effectively or handle difficult emotions is a reflection of their own issues, not yours. Understanding this can help in moving forward and not taking the ghosting too personally. It's crucial to recognize your own worth and not let someone else's actions define your self-esteem. Reclaiming your power. Healing from the hurt of being ignored. Being ignored can be a deeply painful experience, but it's essential to remember that you have the power to heal and move on. The first step is acknowledging your feelings. Don't try to suppress your emotions. Allow yourself to feel the hurt, anger, or sadness. Talking to a trusted friend, family member, or therapist can also be incredibly helpful. Sharing your experience with someone who listens without judgment can help you process your emotions and gain perspective. Remember that you're not alone in this. Finding your voice. Self-worth in a world of silence. In a world that can sometimes feel deafeningly silent, it's crucial to find your voice and assert your worth. Being ignored can chip away at our self-esteem, but it's important to remember that your value doesn't come from the opinions of others. Focus on your strengths, cultivate your passions, and surround yourself with people who appreciate you for who you are. Remember that you are worthy of love, respect, and connection. Don't let the silence of others define you. You have a voice, and it deserves to be heard. And if you like this video, do not forget to subscribe and follow the Psychology and Physical Training channel for more videos. Thanks for joining me today on this journey.